Hello, this is Keith Bear with Possum Sausage Forge. I just thought I might start posting some videos, so the first video I'll just give you a little tour of my little shed where all the magic happens, and maybe I'll start posting some videos of works in progress and build-alongs, whatnot. So here is where I do all of my blacksmithing. My little setup is just a 12 by 16 shed. That's the forge, my anvil, and it is a mess. But the forge, it is a Vulcan fire pot. I don't know how well you can see underneath there. Just got the ash dump. Got a clinker breaker out the side. And then I restored this Buffalo 300, and that is the air supply. I mainly burn charcoal. I prefer coke when I can get it, but it's got to drive for a bit to get it up around here. It drafts amazingly well. The chimney, I had to kind of jog off to the side and then jog off to the front, but it's a 12 by 12 square, just made out of sheet metal. Just burning the forge, it doesn't get that hot. You know, you can touch it and not burn yourself. Wouldn't hold your hand on it for more than a couple seconds. But if I'm burning wood in it to heat the shop in the winter, it gets pretty toasty. But what I did up above, where it goes through the ceiling, I've cut away the plywood, so there's a couple inches of just steel roofing touching it, and then the flashing. So I haven't had any issues as far as getting the wood too hot or anything. And then that corner is insulated, and then tin roofing on top of that, so I don't need to really worry about heat transfer, you know, through to the studs or anything. And honestly, this brick, I want to build this brick up higher, but the brick is a great insulator. That never gets too hot to touch. So this is usually where I stand when I'm forging, so I can, you know, run the blower, got the forge going, and anvil's right there. Behind me, got a little stash of steel. There's railroad spikes and clips on the left, and then wrought iron in the middle, and then just random, I have mild high carbon and spring steel on the right. All of my hammers, and then little chalkboard, yardstick, 22. There has been coyotes not 50 yards out the door before. It's got some miscellaneous stuff. That is the first hammer I ever forged. And then here's some wrought iron my brother found metal detecting, I thought was kind of cool. So this one, I mean, you can really see how it was constructed. I didn't want to forge anything out of it. That's too cool. And then this one's just drawn into a square taper at the end. But what's weird is how well they fit together. But I got a little bench over here. Got to have that Christ-centered ironworks blacksmithing flux. Post vise. Do a good bit of twisting and upsetting on that. And I usually keep all of the fluxes over here, but it just naturally becomes a mess. So I just have regular borax here. This is some anhydrous borax. So I took borax, melted it down to a sludge, and then ground that up. That flows a little bit better, doesn't bubble up and get all foamy on you, but it's a pain in the butt to make. So I like the way it works better, but just straight borax is a lot easier. And then this is just a bunch of grinding dust off the floor, off this bench. Sometimes I will supplement the regular borax with the grinding dust. And from what I understand, is it Iron Mountain Flux or something like that? That's mainly anhydrous borax and iron. And basically, the iron just acts as a filler. It helps you fill bigger welds, or bigger seams. Got a little scraps of face frames from the cabinet shop I work at. I use that for just burning in the forge as a wood stove, essentially, when I'm not forging, but I'm out here working. A little strap hinge project I've been working on. Eventually I'm going to replace this door, which is my main door. I want to build my own door and put strap hinges and all the hardware on it. This door right here, I did forge a little latch like that, and it's a thumb latch on the outside. Then it has a little cross bolt that snaps over and locks it. Kind of fun. And got a 20-pound sledge when my brother's over helping strike. We use that. That moves a lot of material pretty quickly. Oil for the quench bucket. There's some bolts that I use to preheat the oil. Got a little treadle hammer deal with an 8-pound sledge. A couple shelves. The swage block. It's probably about 110 pound or so swage. I think it's 11.5 by 13, 3 inches thick. Had it burnt out of 4 plates of 3/4 thick steel. Works just fine for what I need it for. Coming on around, I got my post drill. Use that all the time. All of Roy's stickers. And then here is my workbench side. Let me come around to the other side of the anvil. A mess just like everything else. I use those lanterns, if we get power out, or sometimes I just turn the lights off and light the lanterns and work by lantern lights. I enjoy it. Got storage up above, bunch of junk. I've got 3 vices. Got a big reed. It's a 104R. This is I believe a Lakeside, just a cheap cast, but it's a swivel vise. I use that all the time, starting to do some engraving. So I use that for engraving. And this is a little reed, or Wilson. It's a little Wilson vise. Another shelf, cabinets for storage. There's the flintlock I've been working on, trying my hand at some engraving. There's a gun barrel I'm working on. That's a rolled wrought iron barrel, welded the bottom, brazed the bottom lug on. That's not a front sight, that's the bottom lug. Then made the breech plug, screwed it in, tapped it and everything. Drilled the touch hole, getting ready to block it down to a piece of wood and do a proof firing. A workbench right there. It's where I store a bunch of stuff. Antlers, trash, what have you. Here's a little wood lathe. Use that for making chisel handles and anything really. I like to make hammer handles on it and then flatten out 2 sides to make like a round with squared sides, like an oval, but I just like the way it fits in the hand. Got another cabinet up there for storing. That's my maker's mark is a KB, and then my wife's first initial is L. So any projects we work on together, we put that L down there. but this is where I keep, there's some steel stock down here, random punches, drifts, chisels. Here's some random projects, got some tong blanks in there. Powder for playing with. Here's a twisting wrench deal I started to forge out. Never seen anything like it, but I thought maybe the other jaw could slide, and then when you go to twist something, it just binds against itself. So it's like a, almost like a crescent wrench, but without the threads. Might maybe file some teeth in here for it to catch on, but just a random little project I thought of doing. And then on this other side, I built this loft up above so I have more storage. There's a giant pair of great bellows up there I plan on restoring someday. I thought at first when I got this shed I wanted to power it with bellows because I didn't have that blower, but there's just no head space up above for, you know, the great bellows or grand bellows or whatever. So maybe someday. But my stand, so this, I cut a hole in the floor and then I laid some limestone blocks from an old barn foundation, which is the same as what I used for these steps into the shed. So I cut a hole in the floor, then I laid a foundation out of the limestone blocks, and that's what the Anvil base sets on. So none of the shock goes into the floor, it goes through into a stone foundation on the ground. But that's a 140 or so pound. The best I can tell, it's a West brand, and the only information I can find on it is an ad from back in the 20s, I believe. But it's a solid cast steel, very, very comparable to a Swedish cast. Rebound on this thing is just nuts. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, you can see all the dings, but it's also my first Anvil. That's what I learned on. Getting ready to fix that. Being solid cast steel, you don't have to worry about grinding through a top plate. But I've been working on a lot of forge to finish, and those dings do show in the forge to finish. So, little project I was working on before dinner tonight was this blacksmith's helper that goes into the pritchel hole. So it sits more or less flush with the anvil, but you can swing it out and you can use that to lay a piece of bar steel across. And basically, instead of having a movable stand, you can just use this guy. You can swing it in or out wherever you want it, right here using the steel. So I feel like that's going to be a very nice tool to have, especially punching pivot holes in tongs. I think that's where I'm going to use it the most, instead of, you know, tucking the handle up under your crotch and trying to hold it and all that fun jazz. But yep, that's it. That's a little tour of my shop. A little bit of chain hanging down there, thermometer. Anyway, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.